This video is sponsored by Card Kingdom, where you can pre-order every card from Phyrexia All Will Be One right now using my referral link in the description. Hi everyone, I'm Nissa, and today is Wednesday, and that means it's time for another MTG Top 10. My Phyrexia All Will Be One set review has just wrapped up, and as usual, during the set review week, one of my MTG Top 10s has been taken over with my picks for the top 10 bombs in the set. In Magic, a bomb is a good thing and refers to cards that are so powerful they can drastically alter a game in your favor, even if you're behind. Basically, these are the cards you most want to open in your sealed pool or see in your Pack 1 Pick 1. Most bombs are rares and mythics, of course, but if you want my thoughts on more than cards of those rarities, you can check out my set review, where I covered every single card in the set. Alright, let's dive in with my picks for the 10 biggest bombs in Phyrexia All Will Be One. At number 10, it is Mondrak Glory Dominus. This 4-mana 4/4 doubles the number of tokens that you make. That might sound like it needs sort of a build around to work effectively, but the fact is that if you're playing white, you're going to have several cards in your deck that make tokens, because might tokens are one of the big themes in white, as well as the 4 Mirrodin mechanic, and with both of those, he works really well. You're going to get 2/2/2s from every card with 4 Mirrodin, and you're going to double, obviously, the number of might tokens you make. What makes him really great and allows him to sort of reach the bottom part of this list is the fact that Mondrak can become indestructible. You do need to have 1 actual mana up, but as long as you have that and 2 other artifacts and or creatures, which you're likely to have because of his ability to double tokens, he can become indestructible, and at that point he becomes a real menace. This is the only Dominus that made the list. I do think some of the others are bombs, as we'll see when I show you the honorable mentions for this set. But I think this one's the best, mostly because it can come down early in the game and have a big impact. Obviously, he is at number 10 here, so he still takes a little more work to get going than the other bombs on this list, but Mondrak Glory Dominus is really good. At number 9, I have Kaya Intangible Slayer. She's relatively hard to cast, costing 2 white and 2 black, and has a mana value of 7. That's really the only thing that keeps her this low on the list, because she's insanely powerful. She starts with 6 loyalty, which is a lot. She's got hexproof, which means, cards that can target her with damage or just outright destroy planeswalkers. She doesn't care about those. And then she has 3 really good abilities. Her +2 allows you to drain your opponent, which can give you a pretty quick win condition. Her 0 ability lets you draw 2 cards at a time, which is crazy, but those aren't even close to as good as her -3, which lets you exile a creature or enchantment, and if it wasn't an aura, it usually won't be, you get to create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 1/1 white spirit creature with flying in addition to its other types. So that ability simultaneously functions as removal and a way to protect Kaya, because she makes a body that can get in the way of any creatures your opponent might still have. That's just an insane amount of value. You can see why they made her cost what she does. They didn't want you to be able to splash her at all in limited. And yeah, she's going to take over the game when you can actually cast her. The only thing that holds her back is that she's a little tricky to cast. At number 8, it is Thrun, Breaker of Silence. This starts out as a 5-mana 5/5 with trample that can't be countered, but what really makes him great are the other 2 things he does. One of them is that he can't be targeted by non-green spells your opponents control, or abilities from non-green sources your opponents control. That means almost all the removal in the format just can't target Thrun, and that goes really well with the fact that he's also indestructible during your turn. And because he's a 5/5 trampler, it's not like he's the kind of big indestructible creature your opponent can just chump block every turn. He's going to be getting in for damage, he's resilient, he's highly efficient. Finding a way to kill him is not an easy task, and that makes him a pretty incredible bomb. Next, I've got Luca, Bound to Ruin. This is another very powerful planeswalker. He comes with completed, so you can actually cast him as a 4-mana 3 loyalty planeswalker that you also pay 2 life for, or you can pay the full 5 and he enters with 5 loyalty. His +1's not great, it ramps your mana. That's not really what gets you excited about playing Luca. It's the other 2 abilities. His -1 can just crank out a 3/3 Phyrexian Beast creature token with Toxic 1. So he comes with the ability to very easily protect himself. He can do it right away. Whether you play him on 4 or on 5, he can just start cranking these tokens out. And he's got a -4 that lets you do damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures or planeswalkers, where X is the greatest power among creatures you controlled. So That one's a little situational, but the fact that you can set it up to some degree with the -1 is nice. The fact you can choose to play him for 5 and use that ability right away in a situation where you have like a 6/6 in play and remove a couple of your opponent's creatures is really good. It really is the -1 that's the star of the show here, just because he's going to guarantee you that you get a significant amount of value out of him if you use that ability, but the -4 can be really powerful in the right scenario, and ramping your mana with the +1 is pretty good too. At number 6, I've got another Planeswalker, Vraska Betrayals Sting. This set has more Planeswalkers than usual because it printed some extras at Mythic, and there are several that are only at Rare, so there are a lot of them on this list, and Vraska is another powerful one. She's got completed, so you can play her as a 5-mana, 4-loyalty Planeswalker that you pay 2 life for, or just pay the full 6 and get a 6-loyalty Planeswalker. Her 0 ability draws you a card and you lose 1 life, and she proliferates. That means she's actually gaining loyalty when she uses this, even though it doesn't say +1. And it also means that your opponent's probably getting another poison counter, and maybe you're getting some oil counters going too, although those aren't a huge theme in black. It's more of a poison color, but either way, she'll be using that ability and getting some value. She's got a -2 that's a powerful removal effect. It turns an opposing creature into a treasure. Most of the time, that's going to be very good for you. There are some corner cases where it ends up backfiring, but most of the time, turning your opponent's best creature into a treasure is great. And if you pay the full 6 for her, she can just do that 3 turns in a row, which is likely to just win you the game on its own. But in addition to that, she can draw you cards, proliferate, and so forth. Her ultimate's kind of silly. It just makes your opponent go to 9 poison, which does mean on your next turn, if you proliferate again, they're dead. Or if you use the ability and then proliferate, they're dead. But it's kind of underpowered given, what ultimates usually look like, and you have to do a little bit of extra work to make your opponent lose. But that's okay because her 0 and -2 are so powerful. She's going to be a card drawing engine that comes with powerful removal attached. At number 5, I've got Nissa, Ascended Animist, another completed Planeswalker. This one comes with 2 Phyrexian symbols in the cost, so you have more options with how to cast her. You can pay 3 and 4 green to get the full 7 loyalty. You can pay 3 generic and 2 green and 2 life to have her enter with 5, or you can pay 3 generic, 2 green, and 4 life and have her enter with 3 loyalty. She is another Planeswalker who comes with the ability to make a token. In this case, her +1 lets her generate a Phyrexian horror that has power and toughness equal to her loyalty. Keep in mind, the way this is worded, it means that the token will always have the power and toughness it has when you create it. It doesn't adjust its power and toughness the way some effects like this do. That is mostly good because it means if Nissa dies, you still keep the token. Your opponent doesn't just blow you out. But it does mean if her loyalty gets higher, that token's also not going to get bigger. And her loyalty might get higher because you can just keep plussing and adding these big bodies to the board. Her -1 can destroy a whole bunch of stuff in the format. And her -7 is an overrun effect that will frequently win you the game if you have any board presence at all. So she's got 3 really good abilities. They're all pretty accessible. She is hard to cast for the full 7 loyalty because that requires a whopping 4 green mana, which is doable in limited, but not always just readily available. But the fact that you have these 3 different modes you can cast her in, the fact that she churns out these powerful creature tokens, can blow up problem permanents, and if she gets high enough loyalty, just win you the game, that's exactly all the things that you want out of a powerful Planeswalker. At number 4, I have Sword of Forge and Frontier. This is an entirely colorless bomb, so even though there are some bombs ahead of it on this list, in a world where you got both in a pack somehow, you'd probably take this one because there is a 100% chance you play it in your deck, and that's always a thing to keep in mind. But yeah, this is powerful like all the other Swords of X and X we've seen over the years. It offers +2/+2 and protection from red and green. That already is a surprisingly good card in limited. Protection is a powerful keyword, and because most limited decks are 2 colors, there's like a 60% chance that the protection on this card will matter against your opponent, and that's pretty high. But then, of course, it has a powerful ability that happens when you hit your opponent with that creature. And in this case, it's that it generates cards for you. You get to exile the top 2 cards of your library, and you can play those this turn, and you can play an additional land this turn. So even if you hit 2 lands, you get to play both of them, which is nice value. You're kind of hoping you don't hit 2 lands and you hit a spell and something else. But the point is, it gets pretty close to just drawing you 2 extra cards a turn when your creature can get in there. And the thing that really drives home how strong something like this is that your opponent might be able to kill whatever you put it on, but you're just going to put it on something else and cause even more problems for them. So, this can help you kill your opponent because of the protection and stats boost. And if that's not enough, it's also going to draw you extra cards to make sure your opponent has no hope of coming back. At number 3, I have Kaito, Dancing Shadow, another powerful planeswalker. He comes with a cool triggered ability that when one of your creatures deals combat damage to a player, you can return it to your hand. And if you do, you can activate the loyalty abilities of Kaito twice this turn, rather than only once. That is a very powerful ability to have. Doubling up on a loyalty ability is strong. And what's great is you can find things to return to your hand that also give you value. You're not always going to be able to access this ability and take full advantage, but when you do, Kaito will feel absolutely insane because you'll get 2 loyalty abilities and recast a thing that had an Enter the Battlefield ability or whatever. And that is incredibly powerful. And then he, of course, comes with good abilities. All 3 of them are good. His +1 pacifies a creature until your next turn. You can use this to help you get in with a creature so that you can then return it to your hand. You can also use it to protect Kaito because you can keep their best attacker from attacking you. You can also use it to help you just get in for lethal because you need to get a blocker out of the way. Then he has a 0 ability that draws you a card. That's always a great ability on a planeswalker. And if that weren't enough, he's also got a -2 that generates a creature token with Death Touch, so it's great at protecting him. It will punish any creature that does decide to attack Kaito, and it also gains you 2 life and makes your opponent lose 2 life when it dies. The one thing about Kaito is he starts with low loyalty, but it almost doesn't matter when you play him. He's going to pull you back in the game, either by shutting down a creature or making a token to protect himself. And once you can turn on the, hey, I can use loyalty abilities more than once thing, things can get really silly. You can bounce something to your hand. Even when you're not getting into the battlefield ability going, you can bounce something to your hand just so you can shut down another one of their attackers for a whole turn, or draw another card, or if you have enough loyalty, just make another creature token. So he's really strong. He's pretty much unbeatable on turn 4 and great all game long. At number 2, I have 3 of the Twilights, in particular the blue, black, and white ones. I don't think the red and green ones are bombs. They're good cards, as you will have seen if you watch my set review, but they're not quite bombs. These 3 are, and I think the blue one is the most powerful of them all. Part of the reason for that is it has sort of the highest floor of any of these 3. Blue Sun's Twilight lets you steal an opposing creature. That's a powerful thing, whether you're paying 3 for X or 4 for X or even 2 for X. Stealing an opposing creature is one of the most powerful things you can do, and then it gets absolutely absurd if you do, in fact, pay more for X. It can't steal absolutely massive creatures, of course. I mean, it can if you have enough mana, but you're usually not going to have it. But that's fine. The effect is incredibly powerful all game long and gets truly absurd if you pay 5 or more. That's less true of the other 2. Black Sun's Twilight is like a medium removal spell up until you're paying 5 for X. Once you are paying 5 for X, it's completely insane. Sort of on the same level of Blue Sun's Twilight, it allows you to destroy your opponent's thing and reanimate something from your graveyard. So you subtract from their board and add to yours all at the same time. And it can even do it at instant speed. Although keep in mind the creature you get back is tapped, so you can't ambush block them and really blow them out. But you can use this at the end of your opponent's turn, kill their best creature, reanimate your best creature, and the game has just changed drastically. And you only have to pay a total of 6 mana to make that happen in a lot of scenarios, and that's cool. White Sun's Twilight might actually, of these 3, be the most powerful when you pay 5 or more for X, but it's also a lot weaker than the other 2 when you're not. It gains you X life and makes X might tokens. These tokens are nice because they can pressure your opponent on a couple of different axes, whether doing damage to them or poisoning them is a problem, or whether you need the extra bodies to sacrifice to things. That's nice, but you have to keep in mind that once you use this card on your turn and you're not paying 5 or more for X, your opponent can almost entirely ignore what you have because the things you just made can't block. So you can't really use this that effectively when you're behind, when you don't have 5 mana or more for X. When you do that, it is insane because it nukes the whole board and you get to hold on to a bunch of 1/1 tokens that you just generated and you gain life. It really swings the game in your favor, probably even more wildly, like I said, than the blue or black one, but it has a much lower floor than the other 2, and I think that's why I have it sort of third behind these other 2 bombs. All 3 of them are great. I think I would say the blue and black ones are the only ones I would take over Kaito. But yeah, they're all great. Before we take a look at the number 1 bomb in the set, here are the other cards that I gave an A- grade or higher to in my set review, and that's a grade that signifies bomb status. And at number 1, I have the Eternal Wanderer, which I think is not only the best bomb in this set, but one of the best limited bombs we've ever seen, certainly in like the last 10 years. It is a completely insane planeswalker. She has an ability that prevents more than one creature from ever attacking her. So already she starts with an ability that you don't even have to use any loyalty for that makes it hard to kill her, because one attacker at a time is not often enough and limited to take down a planeswalker. But she comes with other great abilities too. Her +1's not the most exciting thing ever, but you can rebind into the battlefield ability. You can also use it as a form of temporary removal, because you can use it on your opponent's creature to exile it, and then they don't get it back until their next in-step. So it's a very flexible ability that has a couple of nice uses. Her 0 ability generates a 2/2 samurai creature token with double strike, so in addition to the fact that when she comes down, she's saying, hey, guess what? You can only attack me with one thing. She also comes with a +1 and a 0 ability that can make whatever their best attacker was unable to attack effectively that next turn, either by temporary exiling it or just blocking it with a 2/2 double striker. And then what really seals the deal is her -4, which is an ability that basically says, it doesn't matter how far ahead of me you were, I'm now going to win the game, and that is that she makes both players sacrifice all of their creatures but one, and you're the one who gets to decide what they keep. So you keep your best creature, and they hold on to a might token or something. So if you're ahead, her +1 and 0 abilities are going to take over the game, and if you're behind, her -4 will effectively win you the game in most scenarios. That's what makes her a completely insane bomb. It is a little unfortunate she's at rare instead of mythic, so we're going to see more of her than maybe we want to. You'll be happy when you have it, but this is the kind of card that your opponent's going to play, and you're just going to groan because your chances of beating it are minimal. So those are my picks for the 10 biggest bombs in Phyrexia All Will Be One. If you want to own any of these powerful cards, check out the description where you can find a direct Card Kingdom link for each card that appeared in the video. If you enjoyed this video, help me out and like it and share it so that others can enjoy it too. If you want to make sure you catch future content, don't forget to subscribe. If you want to catch up on my past top 10s, and there's over 540 of them at this point, or if you want to watch the set review for Phyrexia All Will Be One, you should see some playlists for those things on your screen shortly. And lastly, if you want to go the extra mile in supporting me and the channel, you can do that by becoming a patron or a channel member. You can find ways to do that in the description. Thanks for watching.